Hi there. Welcome back to another Connections and Culture and Connections. I almost said delightful discussions. This is our third episode of Culture and Connections since we have made the brand switch. And I am very excited to share with you my personal digital organizational coach. Now, he's so much more than that. Believe me, it is amazing. And I am not exaggerating when I tell you that this system has helped me to be the rock star that I truly am. And I want that for you too. So stay tuned. Make sure to grab something to drink and something to write with so that you can take notes. I will be right back to introduce my guest. So stay tuned. All right, guys, have you ever had that panic at 3 a.m. in the morning of, oh crap, I forgot to do something? Or do you just feel like you're so overwhelmed with the tons of information that comes at us these days? I mean, it's just constant all the time, right? Have you wished that you could be better organized, even if you're a pretty organized person? All of those described me just about 6 months ago. And then I met Larry. Larry started to describe his system to me, and I knew immediately that I needed his system and wanted to do anything that I could to help share and promote what he's doing because I fully believe in his system, what he's put together, and how it can help you to free your mind. So, if you're looking for a system and process to help you be the rock star that you truly are, you need to meet Larry. And so, without further ado, I'm going to bring him on as my guest today. Yay!
Hey, everybody.
Hi, Larry. Thanks for joining me again.
Yeah, happy to. Always have a good time sitting in with you, and we can have our conversations, and I'll learn a lot from you, and hopefully, it's something that's valuable
Yeah,
to us.
I love it. And, because we work so well together, we ebb and flow, we have great conversations that I feel like people would want to be a fly on the wall to.
Mariah says that your mileage may vary, but
I know that we're going to do more than what this, right? We've been talking about that already, but this is a good start. So, I've implemented your system. Will you share with us a little bit about what you do?
yeah. Well, I've taken to describing myself as a work coach. So people go, well, what does that mean? What kind of work? And I say, well, all kinds of work. So if you look at a professional athlete, they have a technical coach that helps them with their tennis stroke or their golf swing, but they also have a fitness coach and a nutritionist, these kinds of people. And that's more where I am, is I've developed systematic ways to deal with kind of the blocking and tackling of your work. So what do you do with the computer? How do you handle emails, information coming in? How do you keep track of the things that you're doing? And maybe even more importantly, the things that you don't want to do right now, because there's a billion of them, right? I mean,
Yep.
Mariah, you and I've talked, and we're unitaskers, right? It's not good news, but we are not multitaskers.
Right.
And so, out of the billion and one things that your brain can invent for you to do, there's one you can do now, and there's a handful, maybe a double handful you can do today. So, how do you deal with all those other things and put them in a state that you're confident that you'll see them again at a more appropriate time? So, that's really the heart of Attention Compass.
Mm.
Um, when we do Attention Compass, there's a tool that helps us keep track of these things. And there are 4 workflows that we do. So I teach you how to capture information, how to process information, And then we have two daily review and weekly review processes that help you stay on top and have that confident feeling that things are not falling through the cracks.
Yeah. And, I remember one of the things that you said to me pretty early on was that there is a time to do the thing that your brain has just invented for you to do or has just come up. But I forgot your percentage. Was it 99% sure that right now is not the time to do it?
Yeah. So we think of something to do, and most people's first instinct is, well, I'd better do it before I forget about it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I can almost 100% guarantee that before I forget about it is not the right time to do whatever's on your mind. Now, that said, if you better deal with a grease fire in the kitchen before you forget about it,
Sure.
but we don't forget about those things, right? And so if you're saying to yourself a lot, I'd better do it before I forget about it, then that's where attention compass lives.
Mm-hmm.
Because we keep track of those things so that we don't forget about it.
Mm-hmm.
And if you know you won't forget about it, then you can pick a much, much better context in which to approach that work.
I love that. And of course, this is you work mostly with professionals. Your clients aren't necessarily disorganized like myself, right?
Right. It's the best clients for me are people that have enough desire to fix the problem that they've tried some things to take care of them.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I talk to my daughter who's in college all the time. I think it's a great thing for college students. I think attention compass would be perfect for college students. But she doesn't recognize that she has the problem.
Right.
She's got so much free time. Now, she wouldn't say that, but it's true.
Right.
And so, people that have already recognized and already tried some things, right? So if you've been wandering through Todoist and ClickUp and Evernote and all these different tools trying to figure out how best to keep track of your stuff, it's not really the tool. It's the workflows that live on top of the tool that make the difference from my perspective.
Yeah, so good. So I forgot to mention this, we're going to do a little bit of a reverse interview today, actually. Larry and I have talked about so many topics. In fact, I cannot recommend his system enough for you. Whether that's, getting his PDF that will walk you through how to implement this as a DIY, his online course that we've been developing together, I'm super excited about, and or his one-on-one coaching, both for yourself or your company. If you are recognizing, I've definitely seen how this could be so helpful for a team, an organization, being able to all be on the same page with your organization. Holy moly, what that would do. So one thing that we have discussed, though, as we were going through this, I talk a lot about DISC. And Larry thought, maybe we should discuss that. Like, what does it look like for the different personalities? So we're going to flip this today. And instead of me asking all the questions, Larry's actually going to interview me and I'm going to answer the questions. So this is kind of fun for me. And where do you want to start, Larry?
Well, and I'll say, Mariah's an expert on DISC. She doesn't talk about it as much as she probably should. And I recognize that different personality styles are going to approach problem solving in different ways. Mm-hmm. And so my takeaway from this, and this may be for you as well, is to think through where your personality style might be, or contact Mariah and she'll give you an assessment to help you understand what your personality style might be. And then think about how to approach the task that I help with, which is keeping yourself, your tasks, and your attention organized. So, Mariah, you use the DISC profile, and I'm sure it's well known.
Yeah.
And just briefly outline what a DISC profile typically would tell somebody.
Sure. Yeah. So thank you, Larry. That's such a great question. So yeah, and a quick, really basic run through of the DISC. It is a personality and behavior style, which is perfect for this because it is really going to help us to know the behaviors of why someone may or may not be able to implement this and how we can help them with that. So you've got I'm actually going to start opposite. I'm not going to do DISC. I'm going to start with S because it is the majority of people, which is steady. C is next, and that is our creative or conscientious thinker. Next is I, interactive. And finally is D, which is your driven.
So when we think about it, and you said behavior style, which was a great correction, right? So one of the great things about DISC and your expertise is we behave according to kind of the way we're organized mentally.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And attention compass is not theoretical, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I can tell you the theory, and I do some, right? But it's very much a practical exercise of adopting habits and changing behaviors around how we deal with information.
Yeah.
So going backwards, you said you were going to start with the S's. So
Yes.
how would somebody that is a high S in DISC, how would they approach some systematic way to deal with their information and their tasks and attention?
Yeah, so Larry, this is a really good one. You're going to love this one because we talked about this a lot with the habit building. And S is a very personal person. They love people. They want to make everybody happy. They're kind of the peacemaker. They're that person who is terrible at saying no. They allow everyone else to kind of dictate their tasks and what they're going to do. They are that person that we've talked about with email. If you just let your email take over and you just start answering it, then other people are basically telling you how you're spending your time. They are great team players. They're extremely supportive, but this is going to be that person that is just probably super overwhelmed because they tend to take on too much. They're not good at saying no. So this person is probably going to come to you and you're going to be helping them not only to implement a system, but have some boundaries, even if it's don't answer your email right now.
Right. And we do talk about that a good bit when we talk about the behaviors that we're encouraging with attention compass is you've got to take a second, right? Mm-hmm. If you've got knee-jerk reaction, then you wind up being driven by something. And it's probably not your own agenda because those are the things that are kind of back. Nobody sends you an email to tell you didn't work out today unless you got a fitness game, right?
Right.
And so your emails are all about what other people want and or need from you usually. And so this is the kind of person then that's really going to be wrapped up in those things. Is that fair enough?
Yeah. Yeah. And so that's why they're going to come to you. They need help. They're probably going to come to you. I need help organizing all the things that I'm doing. And that's going to be that person who say, oh, you've got to say no.
And you're going to freak out and I'm going to go, it's okay.
It's okay. Yeah. Yeah.
So next on our list is, what do we say? We're going to go S and then C.
And C. Yeah.
Okay.
So we're going to go to our owls next. S is dove, by the way.
S is
dove.
Dove.
Yes.
C,
I forgot the birds.
Is owl?
Yes. C is owl. So C is our conscientious thinker and creative. They are the people that can tend to get in their own way because they're so good at gathering so much information. In fact, they're going to love your system because you're giving them a place to capture that and keep it all, and they know they're not going to lose it. However, they're also the person that gets way too stuck in the weeds. They're way too in the details. They're that person that just kind of needs the push. Like, you've already got enough information. They will research forever. They're also the people that when they're going into your Evernote system, they're going to be like, well, what about this setting and that, all the little details. You're going to be like, stop. There's a reason I told you to do exactly what I told you to do.
Fair enough.
Leave it alone.
Right. So these are going to be people that really need detailed information so that they can understand a new behavioral habit, and then they're going to be more likely to be able to implement that. Is that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, as a work coach, you would be helping them to see that they don't need to do all of that. They can do it later once they've implemented and maybe done some habit changes, but not until then.
Yeah. Well, it's fascinating. Just we've talked about two, and we can see sort of, you know, the C type may be an information, pardon the term, hoarder, right? And
Mm-hmm.
deep thinker, and might need to keep the end result more in their attention than the detailed steps to get there,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so, if I run into somebody like that, and uh, if you feel like you're this way, then we can talk about, okay, well, here's where you can have the details and know that you have them, but you can put them away where they're not constantly present in your mind, and they're there where you can refer to them, but it doesn't have to be this huge stack of paper that's always drawing your attention.
So good. And they're going to love that. Yeah. So good.
So next on the list is our eyes.
Yep. And a parrot.
Interact.
Now, you and I are both eyes. We're both parrots, which is why we can get on and we'd be like, 15 minutes should be enough to prepare. We can improv. And it's going to be great, right? So this is our parrot. This is our very high energy, very outgoing, lots of ideas, visionary, go, go, go kind of person, quick decision making. They're just, however, lots of ideas, lots of like ability to do a whole lot all at once. Probably very disorganized. Or if they are organized, like I was, because I came up with some systems, I'm 42, so I've come up with some systems in my life. But maybe they're not great, because they haven't taken the time to research. They just saw something and they're like, oh, that looks good. I'll try that.
Perhaps a little bit of the bright, shiny object like you and I both have, Mariah.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Shiny object syndrome is something we talk a lot about with eyes.
And so when they're building these behavioral habits, perhaps they're going to feel the pressure of all of these ideas that they've got, right? Mm-hmm. Where, a C style might have a billion things that they could be doing right now. Perhaps an I style is going to have 10 billion.
Right.
And really need to double down on, okay, yes, it's bright, shiny. Yes, it's a great thing to do, but is it the right thing to do right now? And they'll be comforted by the fact that, maybe the C's, the creatives are gathering what you and I now call reference information. Mm-hmm. They have a ton of it and they can keep track of that. While perhaps the I's are more about gathering tasks.
Mm-hmm. Or ideas.
Ideas and wanting to stack those up, right? Mm-hmm. And so again, it's something that we can say, okay, what we can do is we can put that out of sight so that you can focus on the thing that you need to do now. And as these ideas come up, we'll emphasize, and again, we're talking technical language in the attention compass, but we'll emphasize capture, right? Yeah. And you and I were talking about this as we were on just before the broadcast, right?
Right.
So as you're continuing to build that capture habit, there's so much that occurs to you that it's easy to fall back into that, okay, I'll store this up here.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
It is. It's true. And I actually think when we talk about solutions, as we're talking, I'm like, oh, I can think of components of attention compass for each personality that they're going to love. So, right. But right. I'll wait. Now is not the time.
Now is not the time. Yeah. And I want you to know that Mariah was typing stuff into AI up till 30 seconds before it was time for us to be life. I proposed an idea or something we were thinking about. She immediately started typing in. I'm like, oh, okay, just capture it, right? You
Yep.
can get back to it later.
Yep.
So that's a lot of, if you begin to understand these differences and recognize them, then it stops being this battle of wills over how we communicate, and you've got to understand it my way. So this is the power, and again, this is the power that Mariah's expertise brings, is that we can talk, I can talk to you individually as an individual. And thus, I'm not frustrated by the ways you typically behave, but I understand the energy of that and how that can be utilized in different ways.
Yeah.
So, again, the amazing power of DISC. And you see this with teams, right, Mariah?
Oh, all the time. All the
Yeah.
time. If we could marry these together, a DISC assessment with the group dynamics report, and then bring in the organizing, oh my gosh. I think that would be a beautiful marriage of being able to help people get better organized.
Right. You saw what Mariah just did. Here's another. That's a 9-month long project, and she's like, "Oh yeah, we could just knock it out, right?"
Right. Yeah. I's always think things are quick. So do D's, which is our next one.
Okay, so D's are driven. What's the bird for a D?
An eagle.
Eagle. Okay.
Yes.
It's
very fitting since we met in the Eagles community, right?
Yeah. So how would D's or Eagles approach productivity and building habits and attention compass?
So your D is going to be the person that wants this. They want it. They desire it. They love to be able to be organized with their tasks, know what they're doing. They're driven. They're motivated. They want to get it done. However, they also want to get it done. So, like, if it's a process, they're going to be the people that are like, can't you just do it for me? Can't you just finish this for me? Can't you just get this done? Like, who can I give this to? So it's just done. Right. They're very driven, action takers, high energy. Both the I and D are very high energy, and they're just go, go, go.
Yeah, so this maybe is a real interesting one. So maybe we can spend another minute or so here, because I've taken the DISC profile several times during my decades-long career, and for the longest, I was this really high D. Okay, and then most recently, when I took it 8 or 9 months ago, the I had receded. I'm sorry, the D had receded and been replaced by I. The S and the C stayed pretty constant, right? And so I'm a reformed D, which has all these interesting implications that we could get into, but we don't have time right now. But just to say, so our Ds, let me back up. I have a very close friend of mine uses a word to describe me, and that word is methodical. Now, sometimes I feel that way and other times I don't, but the process of attention compass is very much a lockstep, not the implementation process so much, so I don't want to give the idea, but using attention compass is a very smooth progression through the day and the week and those sorts of things. So perhaps my D's are going to be pretty impatient with that, maybe. And they're going to want to maybe take shortcuts and maybe bypass parts of the process. Is that fair?
Yeah, or ask you to just do the work for them. Either one. Yeah.
Yes. Well, in Mariah's suggestion, I will do the work for you, but that's a whole different price range. So if you're interested in that, feel free to contact me. But I don't
Absolutely. That's exactly why we have the different levels, right? You want it done for you? Sure. Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah. And so that's really interesting to see, and kind of a practical application, because a lot of times DISC comes off as a little bit theoretical and a little bit mushy, but to then take it and apply it to something that we understand pretty well,
Mm-hmm.
right? Which is attention compass, and to say, okay, well, D's would approach it this way, and I's would approach it that way.
Yep.
Um, and so, what Mariah has laid out is potentially actionable for you as you approach your next learning task or your next system implementation, or
Mm-hmm.
however you approach that, is to recognize that in yourself and not necessarily view it as a frustrating weakness, but just recognize it as a way that you process tasks and a way you process work. So
Yeah.
that's been very interesting.
As I think about that, Larry, with what you just said too, it also helps me to see why every personality will eventually come to the point where they want to hire you as a coach. They may start out with the DIY and think, oh, I'll just implement this. But as a quick rundown, as you're talking with someone and coaching them, it would be clear that an S is going to get overwhelmed because they don't know how to set boundaries. And you, as a coach, would be able to help them with that. Your C is going to get in those weeds and going to need the push of your high I to get them motivated to, like, okay, I guess I can do this. I can move forward. Your I is going to need your help to hone in and focus so that because that high I is definitely that rock star type person. They all are, but they've got a lot that they've got going on, and you can help them hone in and say, okay, let's not be distracted during this 1 hour, 1 week, whatever it is, 10 weeks. You can do this. Let's do it. And then your D, same thing, like we just talked about. They want it done for them. And so you're going to be able to help them implement it a little more quickly so that they can get to the work they need to do.
Yeah. Well, and that was, flip back over to kind of the attention compass work. That's one of the reasons why you and I got together to develop our latest product, which is this hybrid uh, methodology of implementing attention compass. And
Mm-hmm.
so what we did was Mariah worked through the written steps to implement Attention Compass, and it has a lot to do with setting up Evernote and building out certain ways to interact with the system. It has a lot to do with description of what these four workflows are and how to go about doing them. And then after she had done some of that ground level work, she and I got together for usually about an hour, given that we're both eyes and we're having
We like
fun
to
talking
talk.
to each other.
Yeah.
And we recorded those. And so the product is this hybrid package of, you can go through the PDF at your own pace. And
Mm-hmm.
then from time to time, we'll say, hey, there's a video on that. So you can watch the video in order to presumably get a few questions answered, to stay motivated. You can adopt Mariah's energy because she's got plenty left over around her work and around these topics. And so we hope that that's a product that will allow you to access the value of one-to-one coaching around accountability and around answering questions. And in recognition that while I believe that coaching, one-to-one coaching, is probably the best way to get it done, we also have to recognize that that's pretty expensive,
Yeah.
both in terms of your time and money. And so
Right.
we're trying to find a way to produce a product that allows you to get the best of both worlds. And we're pretty confident that we've done that, and you can expect that product release sometime in the near future. So,
Yeah.
Mariah, how can people get together with you? They can find me on dobusyright.com, or I'm available on LinkedIn. Just reach out to me and make a connection. It's pretty easy to do.
Yeah.
Uh, so, Mariah, for disc help, if people don't know whether they're a D or an I or what they are and how that works, how can they get a hold of you, and you can help them understand what their personality and behavior style is?
Yeah. Anyone can always reach out to me at myoung at 48days.com. That comes directly to me. I check it regularly in its right time. um, Also, we do have a website for those of you who are like, I would like to know more about this disc and how I can implement it, say for my business or whatever. We have 48days.com/ DISC assessments for business with a dash in between each of those words. I can link it below later, and that is a really great way to get some information if you are one of those that likes information first. Now, Larry, before we are done, I know we need to wrap up. We're at our 30 minutes because you and I can definitely talk. I do want to make sure that we also mention how people can work with you. But right before that, what I would love to do is to share the solution that we talked about and how I actually think each personality has a component in your attention compass that each personality is going to love.
Okay. So if we look at, and I'll go in the order that I understand these things.
Perfect.
Right? So if we look at the D personality, our eagles, what's going to really speak to them out of attention compass?
So I think your D personality is actually going to thrive in your coaching. I'll be honest, I don't think they're going to want the DIY.
Okay.
So I'll just say that straight off.
Fair enough. So once you've taken the disc, if you get a big D, then just call me on the phone and we'll start knocking this out.
Yeah. They would rather save time and then invest in themselves rather than worry about all of this stuff.
Yeah, I love it. Action takers, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so then we get to our eyes, our interactive parrots, right? Where are they going to really find this to be exciting and enticing?
So they will more than likely eventually become a coaching client as well. I'll start with that, but they may try it because they love ideas and they get excited about them. They will probably run very quickly through the Evernote stuff if they're technical at all, and then where they will slow down. But if they can enjoy the process, they will slow down in the habit building piece because they will need time to implement that. But if they can just enjoy that process, it will be extremely helpful for them, and they will love the capture and the brainstorming.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting because you and I both, as me presently, and maybe you more thoroughly as I types, we came up with this extra interactive component, right? Because the way we view the world, that was something that's missing from just the simple PDF production, right? So we want to have somebody talk to us about this stuff. So we developed a tool that includes that. It's very interesting. So if we look at our S's, our steady folks, where are they going to love the attention compass, or how are they going to approach it?
So they will definitely love the idea of capturing and putting it away for later. Like to what we talked about earlier, they are the ones that have a difficult time saying no. So being able to know that they can send an email to their Evernote and they, I won't give too much away, but that it will be in its correct place and they can get to it later. They won't miss it. It won't fall through the cracks. That's going to be huge for them.
Now, will they also enjoy the methodology, the progression through the week, and knowing how these things work, and just the sense of steady motion? Is that these kinds of folks?
You are right. Yeah, they are very steady and methodical. They are going to love that as well. And just taking the time. It's really going to be a self-care habit for them, which is good. It's a good practice.
Yeah. Well, and we'll remind me of that after we do this next one, and we'll talk about what that looks like, self-care. Okay. So our C's, our creatives, our owls.
Yeah, they're going to love digging into Evernote and the back end systems. However, they will also love, everyone's going to love capturing for a different reason, but the capturing for them, to what you said earlier, is so true. Having a place where they can put all of the information that they're gathering, links, etc., in one place, and then being able to actually close it and know it's going to go where it's supposed to go. That capturing is huge for all of them. I do think that they are also love. They might get in the weeds with it, but they'll love the brainstorming session too, because you're right. They keep so much in here.
Well, and that's great, because before we get to the self-care, I will just tell the story that the initial seeds of attention compass were laid, and the real need for it in my life as I developed it was during my PhD studies. And part of the problem is if you're going to write a dissertation, there's a huge amount of information that you have to deal with, different articles and papers. And at various times, I was trying to deal with 600 or 700 different academic articles.
Mm.
And I don't, as you well know, I don't trust my brain. And so I had to figure out some way to get that information out there to link it to other information so that
Mhm.
I could go back and follow that rabbit trail. So if you're big into research, your job requires lots of research, then Attention Compass can be a great tool for you. And that's just how I developed it, was to help me keep track of that kind of information as well. We
Mhm.
talk a lot about tasks and attention, and we don't talk as much about reference information. But
Yeah.
one of the keys about Attention Compass is that it allows you to put that reference information into places where it's more easily found. So if
Mhm.
one of your work habits is you're frustrated because you can't find the stuff you need to find, you know it's in there, you just can't find it,
Yeah.
then we can work through Attention Compass to help you do that.
Mhm.
So Mariah, I want to go back to kind of that self-care thing that you
Yeah.
right? And that's represented. I mean, certainly, as you say, your S's, I think you said, were going to be the ones that more naturally view it that way, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
But when we think about the stress and the pressure that we feel because of lots of factors. One is how many emails you get. Two is how big Google actually is, how big the internet actually is, and how much information there is out there.
Yeah.
Uh, Three is our own behavioral style where we're gathering and collecting all this stuff up. The S is the steady folks don't like to say no, and so they tend to overwhelm themselves.
Yeah.
And that's where we coined the phrase "do busy right,"
Mm.
because the attention compass is our tool to help people do busy right.
Mhm.
Because so many people are busy, and that's good. Busy is good. You're doing lots of things. You're providing lots of value out in the world. But if you let busy get in control of you, then that's where a lot of the stress and a lot of the anxiety comes from. And we know these things are bad for us. It's just a question of how do we deal with it. And you've talked about that on several different occasions, Mariah, of that feeling that's so hard to describe. So take 30 seconds and give it a shot to describe that feeling of being in control. And maybe you would be even better at it because you were telling me that you slipped back a little bit from that.
Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes I think it's a really good thing when you take something back away that you had, and then you're like, oh, shoot, I forgot what this was doing for me, right?
Well, it's like in one of the TV shows, they have them lose weight and then they make them put the weight back on at the end.
Oh,
And they make them do things with all this. They lost 100 pounds. If they put 100 pounds on them, they make them go do the thing, right? But
yeah,
yeah, right. So you get away from it, and you then sense what's missing, which may
totally.
get back in. Yeah.
That's been me lately. And granted, I've added a few things onto my table, so I definitely need to be doing it more. But the feeling, and I should have said this at the beginning, but I know I put it in my post, so I'm going to allow that to do its thing. But the feeling of not waking up in panic at 3 a.m. because, oh crap, I forgot something. The ability to actually sleep, to actually fall asleep. I couldn't fall asleep before because there was so much on my mind. And then I would wake up at 3 a.m. with stuff in my head. So my sleep has improved hugely. The ability to just veg. I couldn't veg before. I always felt like, gosh, my husband has this nothing room I've been told about, in marriage coaching and all these different, things that we've been a part of. And I'm like, how come I don't have a nothing room? I now have a nothing room. I can actually stop thinking. It's crazy. And then also that one thing that I said for all the personalities of capture and knowing that the information is going to go where it goes. I watched you, Larry, take a note one day, and you didn't even tag it or nothing. You just you put the note and you closed it, and that was such an epiphany for me. Like, oh, I can just do that. It's going to go where it's supposed to go. I don't have to worry about it.
Yeah. And lo and behold, there's a part of the process where you will see that again and have to
Mhm.
deal with it. And so what we can do is we can put those things out there, those ideas that we have, and we can put them out there in a place, and then we know we'll revisit it at a time when we've got more, I'll use the word leisure in our heads. I don't mean, off work time. I just mean once the pressing issues are dealt with, we can go back out there and we can consider what those things are
Mhm.
rather than the urgency of a new email or the urgency of a new text message where we all feel like we need to respond right now.
Right.
And that hurts our ability to plan. It hurts our ability to consider a response
Yeah.
versus just snapping it off. So that's a great learning and something to describe to everybody about how we then feel when we get this done.
And I do
So
have to share right as we're about to hang up because I want you to know I have a new way of using it. I'm super excited and I want everyone to hear about it.
okay,
I have been positioning myself, as you know, as an AI prompt
oh,
engineer, calling myself a
oh,
prompt creationeer, the AI whisperer, which you gave me. Thank you. Um, and one of the things that I learned is that we need to be keeping our prompts, our very good prompts. So I have a way to do that already, and I have been doing that already. And I've also like been creating so much with AI. Again, I'm capturing all of it. And I'm super excited because even if I'm not working with it right now, I have all that information that I've gathered and I can do something with it later.
well, the fascinating thing, and I know the inside baseball of to some degree of what you've been trying to do, and so uh, if you haven't been talking to Mariah weekly like I have, then what she's spent a lot of time doing is figuring out how to interact with AI systems so that they return the best results. It's certainly one thing to type in, how should I cook dinner, right? But you're going to get back an answer that maybe is way too general for your purposes. And so maybe instead, and I'm just dreaming up an analogy here, maybe you tell AI, I've got some frozen chicken and some, green peppers and, what should I cook for dinner? And so Mariah is quickly becoming an expert in how you talk to AI so that it produces more useful results. And so if that's something that you're interested in, get a hold of, I'm pointing the wrong direction because my camera.
It's okay.
Um, get in touch with Mariah in at her 48 days email address, or she's readily available on LinkedIn as well.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, Larry, this was so great. Thank you for interviewing me. That was definitely a fun change.
New things to learn.
And let's make sure. So, how can people work with you? Let's make sure we get that in there.
Sure. You can find me at dobusyright.com. One word, dobusyright.com. And then I'm available on LinkedIn as well, Larry Tribble, PhD, there at the bottom of the screen. And you can also, we are beginning to be able to be searchable on the attention compass phrase. So those are different ways that you can find me and work with me. And if you're interested in doing this stuff, then give me a call. Let's set up a time to talk about if you have your disc profile, we'll talk about what's the best way for you to interact with this and implement your own attention compass so that a week, 2 weeks, a month from now, you can actually say, yeah, I do busy right.
I love it. All right. Thank you again, Larry, for joining us, guys. Until next time, next week, Monday, we will have Chris Tuff, best-selling author of The Millennial Whisperer, and now Savior Asks, learn how to not be an asshole. I am super excited about it, guys. Join us. And until then, live creatively, friends. Bye.
Bye now.